Hey guys, what's going on? So I've been kind of like refining my philosophies on building a business a little bit, right? And I came around to a core philosophy of mine, which is basically you don't want to chase fast growth. You don't want to chase proper growth. You want to chase fast proper growth, right? Because fast growth isn't generally sustainable, right? If you leave that business after you've built it in like, I don't know, 3 months or something ridiculous like that, then it's not going to stay around because you haven't been able to spend the time building the relationships and keeping people accountable to their own actions so that they can keep other people below them accountable, right? So you need to build it proper, but we also want to be building it fast, right? So you want both, okay? And by doing that fast and properly, you're going to essentially build structure, right? Because you don't want to just go out and chase volume. Like we are selling products, but at the same time we're trying to build business builders, right? So we're not just going out there and trying to push all these products. We're chasing structure, and through the structure we'll build volume, right? Because if you chase volume and you don't build structure, you won't get either, right? And that's just the truth at the end of the day, right? So through fast proper growth, the number one way to do it is to chase structure and build volume, right? Because when you chase structure, the people that you sponsor and the people that those people sponsor, they're basically going to duplicate each other, right? And if you're on Ditto, then when you sign someone up, they're going to be on Ditto, right? And then when they sign someone up, they're going to be on Ditto, right? So it's a really easy way to get thousands of PV in your business, like just through a simple action yourself, right? And then getting people to duplicate it, like which is what the business is all about, right? So I'm all about building the business fast as long as it stays built, right? So that's where the proper growth comes in, right? And you want to sponsor a lot of people early, right? Because A, it gives you a lot of experience very quickly, and B, it tells everyone that you're sponsoring that you're a person of value, right? You always want to be building from a position of strength, not weakness, right? Building from a position of strength is pretty much having more legs to work and having more work that needs done than you are physically capable of, right? Because that means people have to produce for your time, right? They have to do things of value, and they have to be doing like the work basically in order to get you to sit down with them, right? So it's always better to have 12 legs than 3, because when you have 3 legs, you're trying to manufacture, you're trying to fabricate something that isn't necessarily there, right? You're trying to get it started. But when you have 12 legs, there's always someone that's getting themselves started basically, right? And that's why it's always easier to have more legs than less, basically, right? The other quote I really like is commitment to continuity yields emotional stability, right? So I think that's a really powerful quote because it basically means if you know what your end goal is, then you know what you have to do tomorrow, right? If that is truly your end goal, then it's not going to matter how you feel. It's not going to matter how motivated you are because you know where you want to end up. So you know that you have to be disciplined to get there, basically, right? So like I always say, motivation is great, but it doesn't last, right? Discipline is year-round, decade-round. It's lifelong, right? If you have discipline and you just keep on working on it, you're never going to have to be motivated because you're going to be disciplined and just be doing the right things, right? And that discipline comes from, it's like a deeper motivation, right? Because you know where you're going. It's like a long-term motivation because you have like a future in mind, basically, right? So that commitment to the continuity, which is the daily activity, which is the dream, it's going to yield emotional stability because you know what you're doing tomorrow, you know what you're doing the day after, and you know why you're doing it, which is the most important thing in the business and building the business, right? It's the why. Before you do the work, you need that why. Not just for yourself, but like when you're showing a plan, you need to be able to transfer your dream a little bit and your excitement and your passion, right? Because if you're not able to do that, you're not going to sell anyone on the logic of the business, even though it is like a highly logical business, and anyone looking at the objective logical facts, they're not going to be able to say no, right? But we aren't logical people and logical beings, right? So you need to be able to transfer that dream and that passion and the excitement, right? So going to talk a little bit about contacting, right? So people have a massive issue with contacting, right? And it's definitely stems out of fear, but the analogy and the conversation I like to have with these people is basically like your job is like an emotionless one, right? It's not one where they're rejecting you and they're rejecting like you personally, right? They're rejecting the opportunity that you have for them. And they're usually doing it because they're misinformed, right? So they're listening to general opinion, like it's a pyramid scheme and stuff like that, right? So they're not learning and like using their common sense and their logic to be like, oh, this is a bad idea. Because if they were using their logic and their common sense, they'd be like, this is a good idea, right? So I always like to use the analogy of like you're a scout for a professional like soccer team or whatever, right? So the coach has given you a list of 300 players that you have to go and you have to check out, right? You have to see if they basically have the talent, the commitment, all that stuff to join the team and be a meaningful part of winning, basically, right? So you're the scout, right? So it's your job to sort these players. It's not your job to develop these players and make them right for the team. It's your job to sort them and see if they have the potential and they have what it takes to be a part of your team, right? So it's an emotionless position. Because if you go to someone and you're just like, I don't know any soccer teams, but Brisbane Roar. I'm with Brisbane Roar. I'm here to check you out like whilst you're playing. Like, you're not like, oh, I hope you do well, man. Like, no, you're emotionless because they're trying to impress you and they're trying to qualify basically for you, right? And at the end of the day, it's not even up to you if they join the team, right? You're just telling the coach that they have what it takes, right? And then the coach decides. And your coach is pretty much your upline, right? They're pretty much the same, right? So your upline is going to help you work through your list, and then they're basically going to let you know if someone's right or wrong for the business, right? And if someone doesn't connect with your message for whatever reason, it doesn't devalue what you have, right? You just have to recognize that you're talking to someone who basically doesn't understand what you're offering them, right? And you're never trying to sell someone on the business, right? We're sorting, we're not selling, right? So basically, I like to use a deck of cards analogy, right? So if you've got a deck of cards and it's face down, so you can't see anything, and you shuffle it and everything like that, the face cards are already like there in the deck, right? No matter how you turn it, or like, I don't know, if you say something special to the card before you turn it, it's not going to make it a face card, right? It's either a face card or it's not a face card before you flip that card, right? You just don't know yet. And that is basically what contacting is, right? It's a process of sorting. It's a process of filtration, which we sort these people into people that are looking for an opportunity and people that aren't looking for an opportunity, right? So they're not rejecting you or anything that you like say necessarily. They're just identifying themselves as someone who's not looking for a better life, basically, right? So the other example is like ketchup, right? So if I go to this burger joint and I go around to everyone and I'm just like, did you want tomato sauce? Did you want tomato sauce? Did you want tomato sauce? And they're all just like, yeah. And then someone's just like, I don't want the tomato sauce. Like you could try sell the person that doesn't want tomato sauce the tomato sauce, right? But it's not really going to get you anywhere. They don't want tomato sauce. They don't like it. Like they just don't want it, right? And it's not going to work selling them because they know that they don't want it, right? And the business is exactly like that, right? We get hung up on this idea of trying to sell people into the business. But if we just look for the lookers, it makes it so much easier, right? If you just look for the people that are looking for their own opportunity and that they want ketchup, then it's fine, right? You can leave the people that don't want the ketchup alone, okay? But we need to go through the numbers and we need to identify those people, basically, right? So the purpose of a QI and the purpose of contacting is basically like a filter, right? Because we're trying to build a team of business builders, right? So there's obviously going to be some level of filtration involved where we're like refining and trying to find like the right people for our business. But at the same time, we never reject people. We never close the door on someone that is looking, even if we don't think they have the right values or anything like that. You'll be wary of them, but you don't close the door. Because you don't know who they know or who they're going to become. Because whilst we're not trying to develop people, if they develop as a result of like association and being around the business, and then they become a meaningful contributor to the team, then that's great, isn't it? Like that's a win-win, basically, right? So we never close the door on anyone, right? And yeah, that's everything for today, guys. Have a good night.